You held through the crash, diamond hands, iron grip, paper brain. Your net worth hit zero. Your identity had been gone longer. It started with the conviction, not in technology, not in innovation, in being the kind of person who understood what others couldn't see. You weren't investing in crypto, you were investing in being right. The first dip was a test. You passed, bought more. The community praised your conviction. You screenshot the encouragement. You needed it more than you needed the returns. The second dip was validation. Weak hands were shaking out. You were diamond. You were different. You changed your Twitter bio to prove it. The third dip was when your hands stopped shaking, not because you were confident, because they'd calcified into fists that couldn't open anymore. You posted charts at 3 a.m. Technical analysis, support levels, Fibonacci retracements. None of it mattered. What mattered was that you were posting, that the community saw you holding, that you saw yourself as the person who holds. Your girlfriend asked if you were okay. You explained market cycles. She asked again. You explained why she didn't understand. She stopped asking. Then she stopped being your girlfriend. The Discord became your relationship. Thousands of strangers who believed what you believed, or said they did. You couldn't tell the difference anymore. You couldn't tell if it mattered. You had stopped checking the price to decide what to do. You checked the price to decide how to feel. Red days required motivational quotes. Green days required victory laps. Sideways days required theories about manipulation. Your parents asked about your savings. You told them you were early. They asked what that meant. You realized you couldn't explain it without sounding insane. So you sounded insane. The job performance review mentioned focus issues. You were focused, just not on the job. The job was the distraction. The charts were the priority. The charts would make the job irrelevant, eventually. Eventually became a year. Then 2. Then you stopped counting. Your net worth graph looked like a cardiac arrest. Spike, crash, flatline, spike, crash, longer flatline. You told yourself you were desensitized. You were, to everything, including the parts of life that weren't supposed to be tolerable through desensitization. You went to a family dinner. Your uncle asked how the internet money was doing. You explained for 20 minutes. Nobody asked follow-up questions. You kept explaining anyway, because stopping would mean admitting you had nothing else to talk about. The community started fragmenting. Some people took profits. You called them paper hands. They called themselves smart. You unfollowed them, not because they were wrong, because watching them leave felt like watching parts of yourself escape. You added more positions. Diversification. Except every coin was the same thesis. Every chart promised the same future. Every community promised the same belonging. Your hands weren't holding diamonds. They were holding mirrors, reflecting back the person you needed to be to justify the person you'd become. The wallet balance hit zero after the last liquidation. Leverage, conviction, mathematics. You understood 2 of those. You pretended to understand all 3. You stared at the empty wallet for 6 hours, not crying, not planning, just staring. The way you stare at a car crash, except you were the crash, and the car, and the road. The Discord asked where you'd been. You said you were busy. They said hodl. You said diamond hands. You meant it, not because you believed it, because it was the only language you remembered how to speak. You checked your bank account, $400. You checked your portfolio, 0. You checked your reflection. You didn't recognize what looked back. Your therapist asked when it started. You said 2 years ago. She asked what you'd lost. You said money. She waited. You said everything. She kept waiting. You had nothing left to say. You tried to explain it once, to your sister, how it wasn't about the money, how it was about being part of something, how it was about the future, how it was about proving everyone wrong, how it was about becoming the kind of person who could hold through anything. She asked what you'd become. You couldn't answer, because the holding had worked. You'd held through everything, the crashes, the warnings, the doubt, the evidence, the relationships, the job, the reality. You'd become the person who could hold through anything, including the part where there was nothing left to hold. The crypto forums still have your posts, hundreds of them, each one more convinced than the last, each one written by someone who existed only in the act of convincing themselves, others. The difference had dissolved somewhere in the third crash. You still check the prices sometimes, not because you have positions, because the checking is the only routine left that feels like identity. Diamond hands. You achieved it. Your grip never weakened. Your hands just forgot they were allowed to hold anything else, forgot they were designed to let go, forgot they were attached to a person who existed before the holding began. Neurologists have documented it. Crypto identity dissolution. The point where the investment stops being a decision and becomes the only architecture holding the self together. The case studies are still being written. The communities are still recruiting. Your old posts are still there, teaching the next wave how to hold, how to believe,